And I mean, that's pretty much it for what we have for the Lions here. We don't. I guess you and I both think that not much is going to go on there. So might as well move on to this next game here against with the Titans and the Colts, where there's definitely some intrigue here. Right now, the Colts are favored by 3 points in a game that features a 52-point total. Right now, DeMarco Murray's questionable in this game with a toe injury. He did return to practice on Thursday, and he's really not. I don't think there's too much concern there, but he is on the injury report, so just keep that in mind. And then on the other side for the Colts here, um, as my voice cracks, no injury news here. So let's just look at the Titans. Last week, my God, did I make a terrible mistake? I was sitting on a bus coming home from Chicago. The treacherous 13-hour bus ride that it takes to get from Chicago to Philadelphia. Or actually, no, it was State College, and then I was driven from State College to Philadelphia. So yeah, quite a drive. But on that bus, I made one of the worst mistakes in my history of daily fantasy sports. I took out Marcus Mariota, and I took out Rashard Matthews, and I put in Ben Roethlisberger and J.J. Nelson. Now, the Ben Roethlisberger play wasn't bad, but the J.J. Nelson play was. It was terrible.
Yeah, that was a pretty bad pivot.
Yeah.
Your pain because I went Rashard Matthews, but I mean there were arguments for both of them last week. So
yeah. So let's just jump into this Titans team here. It's interesting. Marcus Mariota's price has gone all the way up to 6,700 on DraftKings. He's 8,000 on FanDuel. That's crazy high. I mean, I expect Marcus Mariota to be lower-ish owned than he should be in this game. I'm not saying he's going to be like a very low-owned quarterback in general. I'm just saying he should be, like, based on his talent level and the matchup, I think he should be like about somewhere between 12 and 14% owned, right? But because he's an underdog in a high-scoring game, people are going to gravitate toward Andrew Luck, which I do think he's in a good matchup. We'll talk about that when we get to the Colts offense. But Marcus Mariota is still in a very good spot here, don't you think?
Oh, for sure. You mentioned the over-under on the game. He's been fire for about 3 weeks now. He gives you fantasy production through his legs as well as through the air. I love Marcus this week. I don't care about the price increase. He's still at a discount relative to quarterbacks like Aaron Rodgers, who has not performed as well as Marcus has lately. I have a bit of a hot take on, I guess, DeMarco Murray. So I watched that game last week. I don't know if you caught it on your bus ride, but he started off the game with that 75-yard touchdown where he basically ran straight and wasn't touched and just ran right into the end zone. And then he threw a touchdown pass where he was tossed the ball in a sweep and then didn't challenge a defender. He just lobbed it to Delanie Walker. I think that his toe is actually bothering him and he's fighting through it. But on both of those plays, that basically gave him all his production last week, we didn't see it impact him because he didn't touch anybody. I think 8,200 is too much for me for someone with a toe concern. So I will be fading him completely, despite the great matchup against the Colts. But I love the Marcus to Delanie Walker stack. Rashard Matthews has come into his own. My stat on the tight ends is that Indianapolis gives up the third most receptions to the tight end position. They've given up the fourth most fantasy points. So the keys to that offense in my mind this week are going to be Delanie Walker and Rashard Matthews.
Yeah, I mean, Indianapolis is terrible against the tight end. So Delanie Walker is going to be highly owned, I think, across the board. Even, if it's with or without a Marcus Mariota stack along with that. And I think you're right. If DeMarco Murray is a toe concern, I don't think 8,200 is a justified price tag for him. Maybe on FanDuel where he's 8,500 might be a little more tolerable, but I don't think. I mean, he's strictly a tournament only play in my mind. Either way, at these price points,
For sure.
I'm definitely not touching him in cash. Um, but yeah, I think if you do want to use him in tournaments, I think he makes for a very nice stacking option. If you want to stack this game, right? Not maybe if you don't want to use Marcus Mariota, but you want to use, if you want to use Andrew Luck, if you want to stack him with Murray and then get a game stack of this game going with positive correlations across the board, I'm not against DeMarco Murray in that situation, but even as like a solo running back in the on your lineup, without any other types of correlations along with it, I don't like the play. I just like DeMarco Murray as kind of just a correlation play this week, just because of the injury. Although if I do hear news that the toe is fine and that he's not facing any issues, then I might just think differently by Sunday. But again, we have to wait till Sunday to get that piece of news.
Agreed. And on the Colts side of things, man, I love Andrew Luck this week. They're playing at home, so we all know T.Y. Hilton's home road splits. I think he's in play. Dante Moncrief's in play. And do we have clarity on the tight end situation? Because I think I might like to make a pivot there if we know.
Right now, I got Jack Doyle as their tight end for this week.
Okay. Yeah, I might throw some Jack Doyle in some tourney lineups and leave Hilton and Moncrief off because I think they'll be pretty popular.
Yeah, certainly Hilton, even though he's 7,700. I mean, at 7,700, he's definitely going to be popular. Moncrief at 61, he's going to be very popular. T.Y. Hilton's FanDuel price of 7,900, definitely a better pill to swallow, I guess. Definitely makes him more of a cash game option, or you can use them in all formats really on both sites, but the price is just better on FanDuel. But his 7,700 on DraftKings, not too bad. Matchup is fantastic against number one wide receivers this season. Tennessee Titans are 14th in the league. So about middle of the road there. But still, matchup is fantastic for him. So, I mean, I kind of prefer the Titans side of the ball here. But the Colts just look great in this spot as well. So I think I might just try to get every single player in this game. That's kind of where lineup construction might go. And I mean, I don't know. I don't have a pinpoint projection of everyone's projected ownership here just yet on these guys. We'll get a lot more clarity once these Thursday night contests lock, and we can kind of see where some of the other sites have their ownership percentages at. But I don't know. I think it might be a nice contrarian move to just play this entire game, even on the main.
Well, no, yeah, I think it's definitely viable. A lot of people, you have an instinct inside of you when you're making your lineup not to do that because you think you got to get the best play from every game. But just go back to last week and think about what happened in the Packers-Titans game. You had Marcus Mariota, DeMarco Murray, Delanie Walker, Jordy Nelson on your team. That's 4 players, basically half your lineup, and they were all around 30 fantasy points.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that pretty much sets up as a perfect opportunity. So yeah, stack the game if you want to. If you're making multiple lineups, get a few lineups with simply just this game. Obviously, don't use the defenses, because that's not gonna bode well for you. But
yeah.
Although, you know what? Now that I say that, just watch. The winner of the Millionaire Maker this week is going to have Titans or Colts defense.
Well, if you're going to pick one of those defenses, which one would you pick?
If I had to pick a defense for some odd reason, I guess I'd go with Titans.
So would I. I think their pass rush is actually coming together. So they're only 2,200. And if you were going to do a nice, fade of this game, maybe take a DeMarco Murray and then the defense and fade the Colts. Like that's not a bad idea in my mind, but not
It's
my favorite
interesting.
play on the weekend.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, just for me to sum up everything here, I much prefer the Titans offense this week to the Colts. I know the Colts are favored and they're going to be a lot more popular, but I just like the Titans a lot more. There's just something about the matchup here that I kind of just have to fade a little bit of what Vegas is saying, right?
Yeah.
And I think that just might be the move here that,
All right.
might help me profit this week. All right. So obviously we talked about that game in verbatim. Um, let's look at our next game here between the Buffalo Bills and the Cincinnati Bengals. Obviously not as exciting offensively, but on paper, but in real life might give us some fantasy intrigue. The Bengals are favored by 2.5 points right now in a game that has a 47-point total. No injuries here for the Bills to look at. Right now, Tyler Eifert is the only player for the Bengals on the injury report. He's been a full participant in practice this week, so he should be fine. So nothing major going on there. So let's just look at this Bills offense here. Going to Cincinnati, I don't know. Is LaShawn McCoy of interest to you? Because for some
Yes.
reason, I just keep hearing his name, and I haven't really looked at it deep enough to know why.
Oh, I think you look at his floor in games when he's not hurt. Like his floor is basically 15 fantasy points, and if we're looking at DraftKings pricing, we're paying 6,900. I would much rather have him in a cash game lineup than DeMarco Murray at 82. But we've kind of rambled on a couple games, so I'm going to speed up my thoughts on this one. LaShawn McCoy, love him. Good matchup. He's a huge part of the offense. Tyrod Taylor, this is a must-win for the Bills. We saw what he did in Seattle before the bye. I think he's starting to get a grasp or get control of the offense. Bengals give up the fourth most fantasy points to quarterbacks. Love him. Charles Clay is trash. He's had plenty of opportunity all year. I would not be fooled by his DVP. He's putting up very pedestrian numbers. Probably not going to win you GPP. So it's Tyrod and LaShawn for me. On the flip side, I will be looking at Tyler Eifert for the Bengals. He has the best matchup with the Bills. And I will avoid AJ Green because the last time these two teams played, Rex Ryan just double-teamed AJ Green. Made it really difficult for him to have a breakout game. I think he'll do the same this time.
Yeah, your point on LaShawn McCoy there. Yeah, he's definitely in play for cash. But really, I do think the Bills going to Cincinnati is going to be a difficult task for them overall. And then AJ Green against the Buffalo Bills defense, I can definitely get behind that. The Bills against number one wide receivers this season are last. The Bills are last in all of football against number one wide receivers. So definitely AJ Green makes for a solid play this week. Great pivot off of T.Y. Hilton. AJ Green is $600 more than T.Y. this week, and he's not going to be looked at. So, again, I do think AJ Green makes for a very solid option this week. Tyler Eifert's okay. Other than that, not really too excited about that matchup. So let's just jump to our next game here between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs are favored by 7.5 points in this one with a 44.5 point total. No injuries to look at here for the Bucs, with Doug Martin coming back into that offense, and nothing of note here except for Jeremy Maclin being out for the Chiefs. Spencer Ware is back in that lineup, so he's fully in play here, and we'll talk about that when we get to the Chiefs offense. But I don't know. Can you convince me to use anyone on the Buccaneers this week? Because I can't justify a thing.
Well, I like the Jameis Mike Evans stack this week. For the sole reason that Kansas City gives up the second most rushing yards to opposing quarterbacks. And I think that's a pretty big stat for Jameis, who doesn't get a lot of his production from rushing, but we've seen him rush before. So I think that gives him a little bit extra fantasy value this week, and Mike Evans is not the talk of the town this week. He was the hot play against Chicago, basically dudded. So we should see an ownership cut on him this week. I think that's a pretty solid upside play in a game where they should be behind pretty much the entire time. And on Kansas City side of the ball, I guess you could do similar with Alex Smith at 5,300. That seems pretty cheap for
Alex,
a really decent matchup at home.
Oh man,
yeah, like sexy at all, but
no, there's nothing sexy about Alex Smith. Telling me that Alex Smith could be of any decent. Goodness gracious! I'll let you explain this. I'll let you try to get this, and I will just. Oh man, continue.
Okay, well, I mean, the Buccaneers give up the 7th most fantasy points to quarterbacks, the 4th most fantasy points to wide receivers. He does have the rushing ability. There's no concerns with concussions. He's cleared that. I would good lock for 15 plus fantasy points this week, which at 5,300 would mean 3 times value with room to go up to probably 22, 20, 23 is probably his ceiling. Like that's pretty good value if you're going to pay down a quarterback.
Okay, I mean, that's a solid cash justification.
Yeah, hey,
there's certainly little. Okay, then I guess I can get behind Alex Smith in cash, maybe, with that logic, but obviously not GPPs. I hope we can agree on that much.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
yeah, his ceiling is capped. Do you like Tyreek Hill with Macklin
out? Not really. I mean, he did get 13 targets last week, catching 10 of them. But that was against a really bad Carolina Panthers defense. Their secondary is just terrible. Tampa Bay is a lot better. I mean, they're 15th in all of football against opposing wide receivers.
A lot seems pretty strong. 15th. That seems. I view them as a subpar defense as well.
I mean, here's the thing. I mean, obviously 15th isn't good, but you look at Carolina. I don't know where's Carolina. You look at Carolina. You just look at that secondary. They're all kinds of screwed up. You know, so I don't know. Tyreek Hill, people might be chasing that. I don't like it, but we can agree to disagree. Especially on the nuts for bucks hypothesis or whatever.
Oh man,
I can't go nuts for bucks this week.
Tom.
Oh man, Tom, we miss you, bud. Especially on that Cowboys game, he could have provided quite the hot take. Oh man. All right, let's jump to our next game here. We have the Chicago Bears going up against the New York Giants. The Giants are favored by 7.5 points right now, which seems to be a very popular spread this week for some odd reason. I know it's. I'm getting ahead of myself here. And 45-point total on this game. No injuries on the Bears side. Alshon Jeffrey is suspended for 4 games, so obviously that has its own ramifications that we'll talk about in a second. Victor Cruz is questionable this week with an ankle injury. Did practice on Thursday, practiced on Wednesday as well, so he should be good to go for that one. For the Bears, there are some interesting questions we need to ask ourselves. First of all, there's a ton of value at wide receiver this week. That's included with this Bears receiving core. Eddie Royal and Christian Meredith are the guys that a lot of people are going to be looking at this week. Now, my belief is going to be that Eddie Royal is going to be higher owned for no good reason. I mean, he's 3,400, which is $700 less than Christian Meredith's 4,100. But I much more believe in, or not Christian, Cameron. Why did I call him Christian?
I was going to correct you when it was, but...
First of all, why did you get me on that? I called him Christian last week, too, at a fantasy sports conference. So I like how no one caught me on that one either. but I guess everyone was too hopped up on Fireball. That's its own story for another day. But it's one hell of a beverage, I tell you. But no, but Cameron Meredith is a lot better for me this week than Eddie Royal, regardless of ownership. Even if somehow Cameron becomes higher owned, I just think that even with
So
I mean, at one point this season with Alshon out, Cameron saw 12 targets against the Colts, caught 9 of them for 130 yards and a score. And then he saw 15 targets against the Jaguars, where he caught 11 of them for 113 yards. And then all of a sudden, his targets dropped to 2 a game. Saw 2 against the Packers, 2 against the Vikings, 2 against the Bucks. So
who was the quarterback when he had those breakout games?
McCown. But because Alshon, I'm justifying this. I'm trying to justify this, so bear with me. I just don't, with Alshon out of the picture, I just think that the targets are going to be redistributed in a much different way, regardless of who's quarterback. Right? And I mean, Zach Miller is obviously going to be a beneficiary of no Alshon. And who I haven't talked about, but Zach Miller is hugely in play this week at 3,800, even though he's going up against a kind of difficult Giants defense. And Cameron Meredith, I think, will be the other beneficiary because Cameron Meredith gives you some big play upside that Eddie Royal and Marquise Wilson, iffy.
Okay, well, this would be a cool one to disagree on. First, I hope it's really windy so that I can just kind of avoid these plays altogether.
Yeah.
That is a concern, but I will go with Eddie Royal. We've seen the connection between Cutler and Royal. I don't think Christian or Cameron Meredith is into Alshon's role, whatever the hell that was this year. I think it's Royal and Miller. You think it's Meredith and Miller? That's kind of up to everybody to decide on their own this week. I just prefer to see it to go with what I've seen before.
I don't know. I just my own intuitions is just telling me Cameron Meredith for some reason. I don't know why. I mean, I've been saying it, but at the same time, I personally don't know why. It's an odd conundrum. It really is. And I mean, there can be a point where we just ignore all this because 18-mile-an-hour winds are expected for that Giants game. So that's something to look at. And let's just look at the Giants offense as well in this game. Really, the only play I can ever really justify from the Giants offense is Odell Beckham Jr. No one else ever excites me fantasy-wise from this team, and this matchup is no different. I don't know.
You picked Will Tye a couple weeks ago.
I mean, Will Tye's like a punt. Will Tye is kind of just that guy you're just like, all right, I need value, and there's no other value in this slate. So Will Tye, let's see what we can get from him. But there has been value that's opened up in this slate, especially a tight end, something we'll get to with the Patriots there. But at the same time, trying to find Chicago's numbers, but for some reason they're just avoiding me.
That's okay, and I agree with you. It's really just Odell Beckham, and if it's really windy, then not even Odell Beckham.
Yeah, that was the short way of saying what I was trying to say. So, thank you. So with that lack of fantasy anything for the Giants, let's just jump to our next game here with the Cardinals and the Vikings. The Vikings are favored by 2.5 right now in a game that features only a 40-point total. No injuries to look at here for the Cardinals. On the Vikings side, there isn't anything of note here. So let's just jump into these Cardinals. And I mean, Gary, this is a very difficult stretch for you. I mean, man.
The sky has fallen, Evan. The sky has fallen. Our coach almost went blind. We've lost our third offensive lineman. Our offensive coordinator said, fuck this and quit. So I I can't believe that we're favored by 2.5 points. Like, we look like the worst team in the NFL outside of the Cleveland Browns, if you consider them part of the NFL. So in this game, I don't like anybody higher on either the Cardinals defense or the Vikings defense.
Yeah, defenses here look like they have a good chunk of upside. Um, I just even the defenses, yeah, right? Even the defenses, I'm having a hard time like looking at. I mean, Arizona's number 3 pass defense, number 9 rush defense. Minnesota number 5 pass defense and number 10 rush defense. I'm going to go with Arizona's defense for that reason, and the Minnesota offensive line is just awful now. They're just terrible. So I'm just going to load up on Cardinals defense and go from there.
Yep.
I just don't care for the offense in that game. Yeah, so let's just jump into this Dolphins and Rams game here, where the Dolphins are currently favored by 1 point in a game that has a 40-point total. No injuries on the Dolphins side, no injuries on the Rams side, but a very special entrance at quarterback for a certain rookie there for the Rams, Jared Goff. We'll get to him. But let's just look at this Dolphins offense first against a somewhat decent Rams defense. I mean, they're 12th against the pass, 8th against the run, so I would say they're all right. I actually might like the Rams defense this week. It's an odd thought, but I mean, the game is a very low total, and it's not like the Dolphins are favored by that much. It's 1 point, and it's almost a pick 'em. With some of the where some of the Vegas stuff's going, it might become a pick 'em soon. So I think Rams defense is certainly in play here, especially with the game in LA and with a certain narrative.
Yeah. Hey, I agree. I think this is another game where you look at defenses. You can go on either side, but I probably like the Rams a little bit better. And they have some excitement. They're starting the new chapter in their franchise. If I play one person on offense in this game, it might be a flyer on Todd Gurley all the way down to 5,000 on DraftKings. Like, that's insanely low from what we saw last year, and it's completely justified with how poorly he's played. But the market share of that offense and the fact that they're bringing in a rookie quarterback who, by all accounts, sucks, I think that he will be even more heavily involved in their offense. And if he can just break one, or they can get down by the goal line on some turnovers, I think Todd Gurley can more than pay off 5,000.
I'm gonna have to disagree. I just think, Todd Gurley's bad season this year, it really isn't his own fault. Like, it's not like he's a fantastic running back, but he's just in one of the worst situations you can imagine. Because here's the thing. If you have terrible quarterback play coming out of your offense, you're stacking the box against the running back. Because, Case Keenum brought absolutely no value to that Rams offense. And, if the passing game is going to be that bad, then you're obviously going to prepare for the running back because that's their only offensive asset at this point. So yeah, I mean, Todd Gurley, sure, but Todd Gurley's definitely going to benefit from Jared Goff, but I don't think this is going to be the week for that to happen, right? Because I don't think Jared Goff just being thrown into his first career game, I don't think he's gonna do too well. I don't think he's gonna have like great numbers to the point where the Dolphins start to game plan for him rather than Todd Gurley. So I don't know. I'm kind of off it this week, but I think down the line, I think it's a long-term thought. It's like a long-term thing to think about. I think Todd Gurley will benefit immensely if Jared Goff is any bit the quarterback we thought he's going to be.
Yeah. Again, it's really just a GPP flyer, and I would rather get ahead of it. I would rather try to predict that Jared Goff's going to come in and do really well and get the Gurley bump before the rest of the public. So what's his ownership going to be, like 5%?
Todd, yeah, I guess his ownership's going to be very low. Even at 5,000 for a guy that's going to get a ton of opportunities.
Yeah.
I'm not going to fault you for it, but I mean, the process is
Don't
sound.
put.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The process is sound behind it. It's just, I don't think this is going to be the week where we see the full benefits from it. But again, it's definitely possible.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's look at our next game here between the New England Patriots and the San Francisco 49ers. Right now, the Patriots are favored by a whopping 13 points in a game that features a 51-point total. As far as injuries are concerned, Rob Gronkowski was ruled out of this game very early in the week with a punctured lung. So Martellus Bennett's going to get the start for him there. And then for the 49ers, there are no injuries to look at here. Carlos Hyde's back into the fray there for the 49ers. So we'll talk about him. But Gary, there is certainly, I mean, the value play that's definitely going to help you the most here is Martellus Bennett. I know his ownership's going to be high, but I think this is where I might want to eat the chalk.
Yeah, I think in cash games, certainly I'll be eating the chalk with Martellus Bennett.
Yeah.
And then you really can kind of just pick your own personal favorite, the Patriots offense. It sets up really well for a LeGarrette Blount game.
Oh, yeah.
The 49ers give up the most yards to running backs by like 200 over the second place team. So you can just see LeGarrette Blount just running it through the tackles the entire game. You could see Tom Brady being upset that he didn't score a touchdown last week and basically playing out a shotgun the entire time. And Bennett and James White. I think the entire offense is in play. Just kind of what your gut tells you. And then on the 49ers side of things, Colin Kaepernick has kind of shown some life the past couple games, and one of those was against the Saints. So you got to take it with a grain of salt. But the Patriots aren't world beaters against quarterbacks either. So he's kind of a nice matchup as well. Patriots allow the third most catches to opposing running backs. So whenever I see a stat like that against a Chip Kelly offense, I'm immediately intrigued by the running back. So Carlos Hyde is also in play as a tournament flyer for me.
Well, don't get me wrong. There's certainly some justification for using some or just having some San Francisco 49er offensive exposure. I mean, one of the stats that not a lot of people talk about here is, according to Football Outsiders, the Patriots have the 27th, or they're 27th in pass defense. So there's certainly some merit to using a $5,200 Colin Kaepernick, maybe, and then using a $3,400 Torrey Smith.
Torrey Smith.
I mean, I don't. I know it's a stretch, but like,
yeah,
I think you can kind of justify it.
No, I mean, Torrey Smith catches one Torrey Smith ball. He pays off his salary.
Yeah.
The issue is that he hasn't yet, but sometimes when you're trying to win a tournament, you have to click in a name that no one else is going to click in, and Torrey Smith would certainly be one of those.
I think it might be a somewhat sound process. I don't know. I sound crazy saying it.
Yeah, I would prefer just. I mean, you don't have to get your exposure to the offense through a wide receiver. You can just take Kaepernick.
You could. Kaepernick definitely provides himself a solid floor because of his ability to run. So yeah, definitely Colin Kaepernick has some cash game justification.
We do have to factor in the Bill Belichick pissed off factor.
That's true.
Losing at Sunday night on the 1 yard line. He probably ripped up the playbook. He probably told them they were all crap. Gave them a bigger playbook. And now they got to go earn daddy's love on the West Coast. So it might just be a complete domination from New England.
I certainly hope so, because that's what basic narrative would tell me. Yeah. What was I saying? Jeez. All right. Yeah. So definitely narrative there for them. Moving on to our next game here, as long as I can still talk. We have my Philadelphia Eagles going up against the Seattle Seahawks. Right now, the Seahawks are favored by 6.5 points in a game that has a 43-point total. Jordan Matthews is questionable with this one with a back injury. Did return to practice on Thursday after not practicing on Wednesday. He looks to be good to go. Zach Ertz is questionable with a hamstring injury. Has not practiced all week, but said he should be able to play. He said he's confident that he'll be able to play. Thomas Rawls is questionable in this one with a leg injury. He's kind of just easing his way back in there. And Jimmy Graham is questionable with a knee injury. He did practice in full on Thursday after not practicing on Wednesday. So after all that's out of the way, let's look at this game for a second. I don't think any single player on the Eagles is fantasy viable. And this is coming from one of the most passionate Eagles fans you'll ever meet.
Yeah, that definitely holds a lot of weight coming from you. I would agree.
I mean, Ryan Matthews was just a troll last week. So he might get some ownership from people chasing the points. Just no. I'm just saying no.
It's not worth it.
It's absolutely not worth it at all. It's going to be insane. So let's just look at the Seahawks offense here just to calm me down, I guess, maybe slightly. I don't like a whole lot from this game either. I mean, from this side either. If I do like any bit of it, maybe Jimmy Graham. No, not even Jimmy Graham. Because the Eagles are third against opposing tight ends.
No, they're pretty good.
They have the top pass defense in all of football, so that's something. Yeah.
I wish we had clarity on the backfield situation because I would play Rawls if we're guaranteed 3 down work from him, or I would play CJ Prozis if they're gonna ease Rawls back in. I'm not playing.
Well, they are
in this game.
I mean, they are easing Rawls back in, so I don't think he's gonna get a full workload this week. But Prozis, Benny Logan being back into that Eagles defense, that makes them elite against rush defense. So I don't think there's really going to be much offense in this game to begin with. So I think the defenses are in play. I think you can look at, I mean, obviously more people are going to be on Seattle than Philadelphia, rightly so. But the Eagles, you really can't knock the Eagles out automatically. I don't know. They rank very well, and man, it's not going to be a pretty game. It's not going to be pretty. I'll tell you that much. All right, let's just jump to our last game here between the Green Bay Packers and the Washington Redskins. Right now, the Redskins are favored by 3 in a game that has a fairly high 50.5 point total. Ty Montgomery's questionable in this one with a illness with his kidneys. He should be good to go, but monitor that situation. Can affect James Starks, who is back in that lineup for the Packers. And nothing new going on with the Redskins injury-wise, except for a shoulder injury for Deshaun Jackson. He was limited in practice both Wednesday and Thursday, so monitor his status as the week goes on. Let's just look at this Packers offense first. Like I said, James Starks is back in there. I mean, I would never really use or utilize a Green Bay running back in most situations, but Redskins are third to last in all of football against the run. So maybe James Starks is viable this week at 4,200?
He could be. They give it the 4th most rushing yards to running backs. So decent punt play. That it has. It doesn't feel like you're going to see a stat line for James Starks that reads 15 rushes, 150 yards, and a touchdown.
Yeah, I mean that's why I want James Starks to still be out, because if Ty Montgomery got those opportunities, like, that would be an insane play. Like, at 5,100, Ty Montgomery is like a need. He's a necessity at that point.
Yep.
because, he'd be getting the receiver work, running work against the third worst rush defensive football. It's like you would need him at that point. But with James Starks back in there, I mean, unless there's a clear indication of who's going to get the lion's share of the carries and the snaps, I'm not. I don't really want to attack the situation too hard. Um,
No, it's
and
too
then with
murky.
yeah, and then I mean, it's kind of like one of those situations you had with the Saints against the 49ers a few weeks ago. Like the Saints had two very solid running backs in good situations going up against a terrible rush defense in San Francisco. But, the opportunities like they weren't clear cut. But obviously if you had Mark Ingram, you probably won all the GPPs. So, you kind of have to think of it that way. Maybe make a clear decision in your mind and be like, okay, I'm going to roll with this guy and then see what happens. So I think tournament flyers are worthwhile with Starks and Montgomery, but just not at high exposure levels. Like I wouldn't invest your life savings in that decision.
No, I really don't think very highly of the Packers offense or the Packers team. Part they don't trust each other. Aaron Rodgers kind of feels like a pariah when, like last year, he was the king of the team. So yeah, I would just want to target Jordy Nelson, but he's going up against Norman, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
It's
yeah,
not a pretty matchup.
ideal. So I will probably just look to the Washington side of the ball, and I'll roll with Kirk Cousins, who's been doing really well. He's at home. We just saw Mariota shred the Packers. So he's in play. Jordan Reed. The Packers give up the 7th most fantasy points to opposing tight ends. I like either of them as a Sunday night hammer to kind of complete your day. And if you wanted to be sneaky, no one's going to play the Redskins defense bad. You could go for there. And again, these are just flyers. I would not put a lot of money on this. If Matt Jones is another healthy scratch and they're going to give the workload to Rob Kelly, you can go with Rob Kelly, because when a team starts to not trust each other and kind of just give up, like the Packers seem to be doing, opposing running backs can really gash them. PvP matchup, I think Rob Kelly could pay off his salary.
Yeah, 4,400. I can't immediately take that off the table. So yeah, use Rob Kelly if that's something you want to do. As far as the passing game for the Redskins is concerned, are there any targets for you?
Not really. I mean, Deshaun Jackson's practicing again, and I guess you could play him. But this is another one of those games where the win could be up in the upper 20s.
Yeah.
Even on Sunday night. So I would rather just go with a defense, a tight end who's going to get some depth of target, or a running back.
Yeah, I mean, you have a 34-degree game that we're looking at right now with projected 15-mile-an-hour winds, along with playing on the worst field in all of football. I mean, that's something that a lot of people ignore.
It is bad.
Yeah, it's by far the worst field in the league. So, I don't, cold weather, I'm not digging it. The 50.5 point total, I think that might drop by game time. Maybe to like 50 or 49.5 even. So yeah, I think both of us strongly feel that Vegas might be over exaggerating on this game quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. That'll do it for our game breakdowns. Now let's look at our tournament lineup.
Boom.
Gary, I'll let you go first. We got a clean lineup here with no one in it. So give us some guys.
Let's start off with Andrew Luck at quarterback at 72.
Oh man, that is painful. just because, just
Who- who-
because, like I feel like you're trolling me with that move because I love Mariota so much this week.
This is
Uh,
I think this is a smart pivot because Mariota is going to be pretty highly owned.
all right. Well, if you're gonna do that to me, uh, let's go. I'm gonna just get our tight end pick out of the way because I think we're both thinking similar things here. I'm gonna
Yeah,
go Delaney Walker at tight end.
yeah, we're thinking the same thing. Let's see here. At running back, give me LaShawn McCoy.
All right, that's fair. Um, all right. So right now we have Luck, McCoy, and Walker. We definitely need some value in here. And I think value this week might be a lot more harder than I thought. Um, but it's still possible. Let's go at value. I want to make a really ballsy call here. Actually, no, I'm not gonna make a ballsy. No, yeah, let's go with Ty Montgomery.
Ooh, okay.
I mean, just the justification there would just be, maybe if James Starks doesn't get the carries, Ty Montgomery does. It could work out.
Well, is Christian Michael going to play?
I don't think so. I don't see him. He was just signed this week. I don't see him as like a projected play on the week.
Well, I know he's not going to get fantasy points. He's not in the drafting system, but yeah. Anyway, for the viewers, just something to monitor.
Yeah.
Give me Eddie Royal, 34. I tried looking up Christian Meredith, but he wasn't there, so we're going Eddie Royal.
Christian? Didn't we establish his name is Cameron?
Yeah, we did. Yes, that's why he was not in the system.
That's true. All right, so I guess we need to give Andrew Luck a buddy to stack with. I'll go with T.Y. Hilton. I think it makes for a nice correlation stack here in this game with Tennessee and Indianapolis with Luck, Hilton, and Walker, just to get all that goodness in there. So there we go.
So we have an average of about 4,700 left with 3 spots, running back, flex, and defense. So I'm sure to the Niners game. And I think the best way to do that with our salary cap is to go with let's go double tight end. Let's put Bennett in the flex.
It was actually a thought in my head, like that could happen, but I never knew it would. But it did. That's crazy. All right, so we have running back and defense. Defense. Damn, puberty. Yeah, running back and defense left. This is a quandary. It's not any like great running back plays this week. Last week we had like a beautiful array of running backs. And now we're kind of just like, yeah.
Yeah.
I would go with LeGarrette Blount, but we already have Bennett. Now let's just go Blount. I'll take Blount.
Yeah.
And then you have defense, in which
all right,
everyone is on the table.
Yeah, we have 3,900 left, so I can even fit in the Seahawks. Let's go.
See, I have a defense in mind. I surely hope you pick them.
Is it the Steelers?
It could be.
No,
but it's not.
That's who I'm gonna.
All right, we can go Steelers. I'm fine with that. That's a solid option this week.
Steelers at 37.
All right, so our completed lineup here is Andrew Luck, LaShawn McCoy, LeGarrette Blount, Ty Montgomery, Eddie Royal, T.Y. Hilton, Delaney Walker, Martellus Bennett, and Steelers defense. That'll do it for us this week for the Trips Wide Week 11 podcast presented by RotoQL. I'm your host, Evan Cheney, today joined by Gary Huber. And if we're not winning all the money, we hope you guys do. So good luck in your contest this week.
Peace.